Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our today's session is on reading comprehension. Well, this is part 2 of our reading comprehension sessions. In this session, I would introduce a few more concepts about reading comprehension, and then most of the time for this session we would be working on some activities and exercises. I hope these activities and exercises would give you a good help in improving your reading comprehension. Well, before I start with today's session, I would like to share the review of the previous lesson. Our previous lesson started with an introduction to the reading skills and relating it to reading comprehension skills. In that session, I talked about the relationship of the reader and reading. Then I established those points that were related to the mental process of reading comprehension. I talked about how the complex and complicated process of cognitive comprehension takes place in our minds as we read something to comprehend it. In the previous lesson, I also talked about factors affecting comprehension. 3 major aspects, reader, context, and text, were discussed. And I explained how in connection to or in relation to text, the reader and context play an important role in the comprehension and interpretation of any piece of writing. In that session, I also gave you some comprehension strategies. I explained each of those strategies and talked about the benefits of using those strategies as well. In that session, I also tried to talk about one of the major issues that might be an apprehension of many of you. That is, what if reading comprehension fails? I shared a few tips on the case where reading comprehension fails, how you can continue or how you can save yourself from such situations where you think or you have the apprehensions that your reading comprehension is not up to the mark. In that session also, I gave you some exercises and activities to improve reading comprehension. I started with comparatively easier activities that had simple questions to be answered after reading a paragraph or an extract. Gradually and slowly, I took you towards more complicated activities. And the final activity that we did in that session was on pet keeping chart, where 3 types of pets, that is fish, dogs and cats, what kind of care they need, what kind of housing they need, what kind of food is provided to them, etc. was given in tabulated form. You were supposed to read that and then answer questions that were given at the end. You would have noticed that the activities based on that chart were longer, were of varied types and were more complicated. There I also suggested you to use your notes-taking technique as a support in comprehension doing activities. With this, we move on to more knowledge about comprehension, as well as we would do some activities that I hope would help you use those strategies in improving your reading comprehension skills. So basically today's session is about sharing some more ideas related to reading comprehension, but the main focus of today's session is giving you some practice in reading comprehension. Starting with the theoretical aspects of reading, I would say reading comprehension is defined as the level of understanding of a text or a message. Now, the question is, how does this understanding come? This understanding comes from the interaction between the words that are written and how they trigger knowledge outside the text itself. So the same point I would reiterate, as I said in the previous session, that the text is the focal point, whereas the reader and the text interact. And in this process of interaction, the context, that is the outside world where the text is being interpreted or where it is written to be interpreted, it is to this knowledge of that context is to be triggered by the reader to read the text. Proficient reading depends on the ability to recognize words quickly and effortlessly. Now this becomes quite challenging for many of our Pakistani readers of English texts, because it is a foreign language for them. They find it difficult to read effortlessly. They also have the problem of speed. Actually, reduced speed or too much of effort in identifying, recognizing and decoding words sometimes hinders comprehension. If word comprehension or word recognition is slow or difficult, students use too much of their processing capacity to read individual words, which will reduce their ability to comprehend what they read. So you see, they read in parts, they read in small chunks, they spend most of the mental processing time on the isolated words and in understanding what a word is, what does it convey, etc. The result is that the connection amongst different words within a sentence or the connection between different sentences in a paragraph is not established with a speedy enough process that would help comprehension of that whole text as a whole. So, what I would like to say is that it is very important what approach you take for reading. The approach a reader takes is defined not by the nature of the text, but by the purpose for reading as well. So, if it is a prose lesson, if it is a story, if you are reading some newspaper, if you are reading some argumentative essay, if you are reading a piece of poetry, if you are reading some biography, whatsoever is the nature of the text. Even if it is a schedule that you are looking at, say a schedule of television or radio programs, or if it is a recipe, in each case, number one, what is important is the nature of the text. But more importantly, the second thing that I would like to point out is the more important thing is the purpose for reading. If you are reading the same text for two different purposes, in that case your approach to the text would change. The conclusion we draw from that is that any text can be read in any way. There are more than one possibilities of approaching a text. For example, stories can be read for information and informational material can be read for pleasure. So, in determining the purpose, we predispose the reader to read a specific text in a particular way. Well, here I am going to share a few general principles of reading that are very much related to reading comprehension. पहला rule तो ये है कि the more extensive the vocabulary, the better the comprehension. If you have enough fund of words, if you have enough store, I would say, of vocabulary, the lexical items in your store of vocabulary, if it is enough storage, then your comprehension is better. अच्छा, अब what you need to understand is कि comprehension is understanding what message is being sent by the writer and what interpretation you can give to it as additional one. In all this process, because the message is sent through words, it is encoded in words. The more number of words you are able to recognize and decode, of course, it is very natural, the more you would be able to comprehend the text. अगर आपको बेसिकली अंग्रेजी के वर्ड्स आते ही कम है, इफ योर फंड ऑफ नॉलेज ऑफ इंग्लिश वोकैबुलरी इज लिमिटेड, then of course it is going to create problems for you in comprehension. So vocabulary is one of the major areas. अब आप पूछेंगे कि फिर ये vocabulary बढ़ेगी कैसे? Well, the solution is reading. The more you read, the more you have words in your memory. They are stored. अल्लाह मियाँ ने हमें जो I would say अल्लाह मियाँ ने जो हमें ये जो दिमाग दिया है ना, our brain, it works like a computer. इसमें आप जो भी डालते जाते हैं ना, it keeps on sorting it out and placing it in different files and at different places. और फिर आपको चाहिए वो word, वो phrase, whatsoever knowledge or piece of knowledge that is, तो वो आपको provide कर देता है. तो what I would say is keep on reading. और जरूरी नहीं है कि you consciously try to remember each word और हर word का meaning. Automatically in the context कैसे वो use हुआ है, your brain stores that. और let's suppose you come across a new word that you do not understand in a context, आप उस पे you just make a guess कि शायद इसका ये meaning है, और फिर जैसे I shared in the previous session that you predict and then you carry it forward through the text. फिर आप आगे text में पढ़ते हुए देखते हैं कि आपका वो guess ठीक था या नहीं. If it is correct, well and good. If it is not, you make a guess again in the light of जितना आपने पढ़ लिया है, the part of the text that you have covered and the information that is provided in that. So now you come across this word twice, thrice, 5 times, 10 times, say in that text. By the end of that reading text, you would be able to exactly know what that vocabulary item means. अच्छा, let's suppose you come across one word only once in a text. और आप अभी भी उस पर क्लियर नहीं है कि इसका exactly क्या meaning है, how it is to be used, how it is different from another synonym, कैसे इसकी connotations different है वगैरह. Don't worry about that. Your brain would store it like that. I would say in a temporary box. फिर 2 दिन बाद, 5 दिन बाद, 5 महीने बाद, साल बाद, whenever you would come across a text where you would have, I would say, some more information about that word, or where that word would be used in a different context, then your brain would check it. Your mind would check it. The storage in your brain would be checked by your mind, and you would match it with the new information about that word. तो automatically आपका दिमाग जो है ना, वो उसको process करता रहता है और वो words को sort out करता रहता है. जब आप you would come across that word say 5, 10 or 12 times, you would come across that word, so that would become a part of your vocabulary. We will talk about this later on in a session or in a part of a session when we would do vocabulary building. अभी के लिए मुझे लगता है this information is enough. We would continue with the general principle of reading with reference to vocabulary. A reciprocal relationship exists between reading and writing. Individuals are born with a mental grammar which, placed in context, allows the individual to place a meaning upon that particular word or phrase in an appropriate context. Contextual practice will assist individuals in activating that mental placement, enhancing their understanding of different materials. So, you see, reading and writing are related. You use your mental grammar, you use your fund of knowledge of language and of the world to interpret what is written. And when you write something, when it comes to writing on your part, all this knowledge plus the knowledge that you gain through reading, it is accumulated and it helps you design the structures, to choose words, to organize the syntax, etc. when it comes to writing. The more the mind is active while reading, the better the comprehension and the retention of material. So, जितना आप actively पढ़ेंगे, उतना आपको समझ आएगा. You would have the comprehension of that, and then retention of material is very important. उतना फिर आपको वो जो उससे related बातें हैं वो याद रहेंगी. Not only बातें, what I mean here by the material, the retention of material is that you would remember vocabulary items, you would remember structures, the new structures that would be introduced, you would remember the organization of materials within a text, etc. So more active reading can be done, for example, through pre-reading activities that help with comprehension. Well, what is involved in reading comprehension is the crucial question for us, and I'm still exploring that for you. The principal thought behind reading comprehension lies in vocabulary, as I've already said, and vocabulary facilitates the reading and writing processes in three ways. Number one, in the thinking process. A large vocabulary gives the reader or the writer more control over ideas. जैसे मैंने पहले कहा, reading and writing are interconnected. Remember in the previous session I connected reading with listening. Here I am integrating it with writing. So reading and writing are related, and this process that is involved in reading comprehension is applied to both reading and writing. The first facility that vocabulary provides in this reading comprehension process is that it enables thinking. A large vocabulary gives the reader or the writer more control over ideas. If you have a better fund of words, a larger fund of words, you would be able to think in more focused way, in a more logical way. You would have more control over your ideas. The second benefit that comes with vocabulary in terms of reading comprehension, I would say reading and writing both, is understanding. The more you have the vocabulary, that is the more words the reader or the writer is aware of, the less time he or she will spend hesitating between words or sentences. Thus, the understanding will be continuous rather than fragmented. Allowing the reader to maintain a constant speed, vocabulary will not only enhance the reader's comprehension, but will also enable him or her to read more quickly. तो जैसे मैंने पहले कहा था कि when you read it in parts, you have it word by word. The natural result is that more of your energy and more of your mental process is, I would not use the word wasted, but I would say utilized. So more of it is utilized in understanding words in isolation. Whereas you see, in comparison to this fragmented understanding of any text, you need to have an understanding that is more continuous in its sense, that is more, you see, that is with more flow. So if you have better vocabulary, if you have more words as a reader, or for that matter as a writer, it would enhance your reading comprehension and your writing ability, and it will enable you to, of course, be speedy in both reading and writing. Continuing on what is involved in reading comprehension, the third component that I would talk about is writing. Increasing vocabulary will result in long-term benefits as the writer. जैसे मैंने पहले कहा कि reading and writing are most of the times integrated in our lives. We cannot separate reading from writing or speaking or listening. और actually जो हमारी writing activities हैं, especially in your case when it comes to academic writing, you have to read something and in response to that you write. Take a minute to think about your comprehension when you read your question paper. I guess many of you would admit in your hearts that sometimes in your academic lives you you did not comprehend what was asked for. You did not comprehend the instructions that were given for a particular question in a particular paper. The result was that despite you knew the answer, you could not produce it in the written form. और वो बहुत सारे आप में से स्टूडेंट्स होंगे जिनको याद होगा कि बहुत सारी दफ़ा उन्होंने अपने टीचर से ये कहा होगा कि मैडम मैंने तो सही आंसर लिखा था लेकिन आपने इतना लंबा मैंने आंसर लिखा था, आपने मुझे इसका जवाब नहीं दिया. So it's about comprehending what you read as you interact with your question paper. Exactly what is asked for, that comprehension is important for writing, in your case for academic writing, especially when it comes to exams. So I would repeat that writing is very much dependent on vocabulary, because increasing vocabulary will result in long-term benefits as writers. Understanding the items read you will be able to compose papers or essays based on understanding rather than guesswork. Well, dear students, with this we are starting on a part of today's session that is very, very crucial for you. This is about a few comprehension tactics. I am giving you some tactics or some tips that you can practically apply on any reading comprehension passage and can have a better comprehension of that passage. Number 1. Locate the key sentence to anticipate what the passage will be about. So what I mean by that is usually the opening or closing sentence of a paragraph is a key sentence. Do not worry about the position of the key or the topic sentence. Look for the most important statement or idea in the paragraph. It can serve as a guidepost for you, pointing out the author's main idea. If you once understand the writer's main idea, it becomes easier for you to explore the text. The second tactic is first read the passage, then read the questions. As a teacher, what I have noticed about reading comprehension passages in examinations, for example, that students would just immediately jump onto the questions. They would look at the questions first and then they would start exploring the passage. Some of the students actually think that if they will read the questions before reading the passage, it will be time saving. Well, I would say most of the times they are wrong. So first concentrate on comprehending the passage as a whole. Do not read very rapidly, because this way you will begin to take shortcuts and miss the correct answer in your haste. So give one reading to the passage, then go to the questions. Now you would be able to understand questions more. That is the rationale. If you read the questions first before reading the passage, what happens? You do not actually understand the purpose of those questions. You are not clear, you do not comprehend the questions very well. But once you would have the background knowledge of the paragraph and then you would go to the questions, it would be easy for you to understand the questions, and in retrospect, thinking about the information provided in the paragraph, you can answer those questions in a far, far better way. The third tactic related to this is, when asked to make inferences, base your answer on what the passage implies, not what it states directly. Well, as a matter of fact, most of the information that is provided in any reading material is implicit. Everything is not said directly. So it is a good idea to think of the message that implies, not only thinking of what is explicitly or directly said. In a situation where you will have to go beyond the obvious meaning, that is, you will have to go to the hidden meaning and you have to infer the meaning that is hidden in the text. If you are conscious of the fact that there can be some hidden meaning, or what does it imply, what does it mean, keep on asking yourself when you are reading something for comprehension purposes, when you come across any piece of information in that extract and you read that and you also think that you have comprehended that, rephrase for yourself by asking yourself a question. What does it mean? What does it imply? And then try to answer that question before you move onwards with the text. To find out this implicit meaning, I would say, and to reach your own judgment, you should look for clues in the passage. The meaning may not be explicit, or the message may not be explicit, but it is hidden within the text, it is implicit. So look for the clues that guide you towards that. With this, we move on to the fourth tactic, for reading comprehension that can be helpful in improving reading comprehension. And that tactic is determine the area of the answer. Well, what do I mean by determining the area of the answer? I mean that to find the answer of a question, it is important to locate the place of the answer. If you have a bigger extract, within that you might find it in a particular paragraph, in a particular corner. It might be scattered information. In first case, you should take out the important or keywords of the question and run your eye down the page quickly to find out those keywords or their synonyms in the passage. अभी what I'm doing is कि जो scanning की skill है ना, मैं उसकी बात कर रही हूँ. You can bring scanning in for your comprehension of the reading material, and what you can do is कि if there is a particular thing that you're looking for answer to a question that demands for a particular information, so फिर you can just scan your eyes quickly through the document to find out where those keywords are or where the synonyms of those words are given in the passage, so that you could use them for your comprehension and for responding to the question. In the second case, when the information that you have to give as an answer is not exact or particular, rather it is random or scattered, in this case, you should develop a logical relationship in different ideas and opinions expressed in the passage before determining the correct answer. So here you need more inferential abilities. You need to infer, which means you need to deduce the meaning that is not directly said. And in that case, of course, you may use scanning to find related words at different places in the text, but you cannot be and you should not be satisfied with a particular paragraph or a particular piece within the extract where you find one or two synonyms or repetitions of the same word. You should not be contented to that. Rather, you should consult the rest of the material as well before answering that question. Well, the kind of reading comprehension activities that our students most of the times come across in academic activities or in exams, and sometimes they are asked to choose a title. And I would say when you are asked to choose a title, avoid the choices that are too specific or too random. Neither narrow nor very broad choices. You need to stay, you see, somewhere between all this. You need to be moderate on that. It is not essential that to make a title you should use the vocabulary given in the passage itself. To create a title, you can use your own words, you can use synonyms of the keywords, but not necessary that you use the words from the title exactly. A good title that you make through that process is one which includes all the essentials of the given passage. The passage that is given, whatsoever it is about, your title should tell what it is. It is neither too specific nor too broad. However, in its wording, it is comprehensive and not very lengthy. With this, we move on to the next comprehension tactic, that is, when asked about an attitude, mood, or tone, look for words that convey emotions, express values, or paint feelings. If you are asked a question about the mood or the tone of the author, you should take a close look at the specific language used by the author. In reading any piece of writing, you can judge the mood of the author or the tone of the author through the adjectives that he or she has used, or through the stance he or she takes on any particular aspect. For example, if the author is using adjectives to describe a subject, you should look whether the author has used positive connotations, that is happy, quiet, good-tempered, etc., or negative connotations, that is selfish, irritable, careless, etc. Having noticed such words, you will be in a better position to determine the mood of the author, and you would be able to say whether the author is frustrated, cheerful, sad, critical, gloomy, or angry on the particular issue that he or she has presented in that piece of writing. The seventh comprehension tactic that I have here to share with you is picking up one option means dropping the others. Remember, the options that a question offers you might be very distracting, puzzling, misleading, or confusing. But in a reading comprehension exam or test, the secret of your success lies in finding the reasons for picking or dropping any of them. Your casual eye or hastiness in picking up one option without analyzing the others can earn you a discredit. What I mean to say is कि वो जो आप तुक्के लगाते हैं ना कि guess work करते हैं, चलो इस पे टिक लगा देता हूँ, नहीं आता तो. So in all those cases वो जो इन्नी मिनी पढ़ के भी करते हैं और पता नहीं बहुत सारे ऐसे ट्रिक्स यूज करते हैं कि चलो किसी तरीके से तुक्का लग जाए. That does not work. Actually what works is you need to weigh different options. You need to weigh different options in comparison with each other. If you're choosing an option, why you are not choosing the other options? This is the question that you need to answer yourself. So, dear students, these were those 7 practical tricks or tactics or rules, or you may call them tips, that I could give you that you can apply to any reading comprehension activity. Now the question comes, what kind of reading comprehension possibilities you can come across? Actually, there are different kinds of comprehension activities. The size, the length of the text also matters. Following are the main 4 kinds of comprehension. Number 1, extract comprehension. Number 2, passage comprehension. Number 3, sentence comprehension. And number 4, word comprehension. Well, I would start from the bottom. Word comprehension activities are those activities where you are given a sentence with a blank, where you have to write the meaning or the inference or the synonym of a word that is given in that sentence, and then you are provided with a couple of options. You may have 3 or 4 options and you have to pick one out of those. Word comprehension, I would not say it is easy or it is difficult. And what I would say is it is seemingly easy because you think that you have to understand one word. So it is less terrifying as compared to a passage comprehension, let us say. But actually the problem with word comprehension is that most of the times the word that you have to understand or to comprehend is either given without providing any context, or if it has a context, the context is limited. So to comprehend the word in isolation or to comprehend the word within limited context becomes difficult then. This is the threat that word comprehension poses. The rest of the 3 type of comprehensions, again, each one of them can vary in its nature within its type. However, considering practices in Pakistan, I would say that in Pakistan, when it comes to sentence comprehension for students as an examination activity, again, most of the times it is given without context. That sentence is provided in isolation, so reaching the right comprehension option becomes difficult sometimes. In comparison to these 2 types of comprehension activities, which are apparently or seemingly very easy and which have comparatively smaller size of the reading text, we have the other 2 types, the passage comprehension and extract comprehension, that look more frightening to the students in the first go. But that actually, if these texts are explored wisely, they are more easy to explore. and to more efficiently they can be explored, because they provide the whole context of what is presented by the writer, be it an idea or a new word or whatsoever. I would share a few examples with you of extract comprehension and passage comprehension, so that you would have some idea of what they are. Well, before I start with this activity, I would like to say that an extract can be a single sentence, it can be a paragraph, or it can be combination or a set of, it can consist of more than one paragraphs as well. So basically, I am not going to restrict the definition of paragraph to a particular an extract to a particular size. Rather, we would do some activities on passages, and then we would do some activities on sentences. An extract can be of one sentence, of more than one sentences, of one paragraph, or of more than one paragraphs. So practice on extracts would then be done through this process indirectly. With this, we move on to the first practice passage. This is first reading comprehension passage that I've selected for you, a very small paragraph that you are supposed to read. We would follow the same practice as we did in the previous session, because I want it to be integrated and I want it to be used for other purposes, such as for listening comprehension development as well. I would read it out for you. You can turn the volume down and you can put your electronic device on which you are running this session. You can put it on silent for a while, and you can read it for yourself. One more thing that I would like to say about reading comprehension is have a controlled speed of reading. I would not like you to rush through the words, through the lines and through the paragraphs without developing a complete understanding of them. So be on a controlled pace, a speed where you think you can understand a text. Gradually and slowly through practice, you can increase the speed, of course. So here we start passage 1. One major cause of slow reading is that sometimes you don't focus. Your eyes keep moving down the page, but your mind is out to lunch. Then bang, you wake up from your daydream and say, "Hey, what was I reading?" And your eyes jump back to an earlier spot on the page, and you wind up rereading the whole thing. Obviously, regressing, going back and rereading the words or whole passages you have supposedly read, slows you down. Regressing is a habit, but like any other habit, you can break it. Here are two very simple questions based on this small paragraph. The first one is, the best possible title of the passage is? Option A, causes of slow reading. Option B, how to avoid regressing. Option C, regressing slows down reading. Now, what do you think? Which option is correct? Tick mark the best suitable title for yourself and move on to the next question. The second question is the phrase, "Your mind is out to lunch." In this passage, it implies your mind is at rest. You are mentally not present. You are hungry and want to have lunch. Which option do you think is correct? Well, how would you check whether your answer is correct or not? Okay, before I move on to the next passage, I would share a possibility of how you can check yourself. Looking, for example, at question number 1, the best possible title of the passage is, we had 3 options. Number 1, causes of slow reading. Number 2, how to avoid regressing. And number 3, regressing slows down. Which of these sounds to you the most irrelevant one? To me, number B, how to avoid regressing. Why it seems irrelevant to me? Because if you look back at the paragraph, you would see the paragraph mainly is about how, because of regressing as a habit, your speed slows. The passage is not about how to avoid regressing. So this option is out for you. Looking at the other 2 options, which have a very tough competition in terms of taking a decision. Option C, regressing slows reading down. Look at the paragraph. If you look at the paragraph, you would immediately notice through the first sentence, one major cause of slow reading is that sometimes you do not focus. The beginning of the paragraph is a key sentence, tells you mainly the paragraph is about the causes of slow reading. This implies then that the first option, causes of slow reading, is the most suitable possible title for the current passage. Look at number 2 question now. The phrase your mind is out to lunch in the passage implies that, number 1, your mind is at rest. Number 2, you are mentally not present. And number 3 option, you are hungry and want to have lunch. Now, if you look at the passage, where does it occur? In the second line, near the end of the second line. Your eyes keep moving down the page, but your mind is out to lunch. What I said about the implied meaning, this is what here it is. You need to think for a while when the writer says that your eyes are on the page, but your mind is dash. Your mind is not on the page. Your eyes are present, your mind is not present there. It is thinking about something else. It is out to lunch, which means it is thinking about something else. It shows the absent-mindedness of the reader, maybe thinking about lunch. You try to infer the implied meaning. Once you are able to do that, as soon as you look at the options that are given, you immediately decide that option B, you are mentally not present, is correct. It has nothing to do with that you are hungry and you want to have lunch. No, rather you are thinking about, you see, something irrelevant, and that is the implied meaning in that. And it is not also about your mind is at rest. So option B in this case becomes the implied meaning of the sentence. Dear students, with this I bring you to the next passage for reading comprehension. We would repeat the process where I would read it out for you. However, for your purposes, you can turn your laptop or your computer or whatsoever device you are using to silent for a while for this slide. Precipitation, commonly referred to as rainfall, is a measure of the quantity of water in the form of either rain, hail or snow which reaches the ground. The average annual precipitation over the whole of the United States is 36 inches. It should be understood, however, that a foot of snow is not equal to a foot of precipitation. A general formula for computing the precipitation of snowfall is that 10 inches of snowfall is equal to 1 inch of precipitation. In New York State, for example, 20 inches of snow is in 1 year would be recorded as only 2 inches of precipitation. 40 inches of rain would be recorded as 40 inches of precipitation, the total annual precipitation would be recorded as 42 inches. The amount of precipitation is a combined result of several factors. Location, altitude, and proximity to the sea are the most important causes. In some places, on the other hand, as in United States, most of the precipitation is brought by prevailing winds from the Pacific Ocean and the Great Lakes along the Pacific coast. However, height also causes some diversity in rainfall. So this was the end of the paragraph. I bring you to the activity here. Look at the questions that are asked. On the slide, you have 6 questions. Check your comprehension of the passage. What does this passage mainly discuss? Options: A. Rainfall, B. Snowfall, C. New York State, D. Computation of precipitation. Number 2. Which of the following is another word that is used in place of rainfall? Humidity, wetness, precipitation. Option D is quantity of water. Question 3. The term precipitation includes option A, only rainfall. Option B, rain, hail, and humidity. Option C, rain, snow, and hail. Option D, rain, hail, and humidity. Question number 4. What is the average annual rainfall in inches in the United States? A. 36 inches, B. 38 inches, C. 40 inches, D. 42 inches. Question number 5 is, if a state has 40 inches of snow in a year, by how much does this increase the annual precipitation? By 2 feet, option B by 4 inches, option C by 4 feet, and option D by 40 inches. Question number 6 on the slide says, which factors affect the amount of precipitation? Option A that is given here is altitude, option B location, option C proximity to the sea. Option A altitude, location, proximity to the sea. Option B location, rainfall, proximity to the sea, altitude. Option C, altitude, winds, proximity to the sea, height. Option D, location, proximity to the sea, winds. Take a couple of minutes to solve this out for yourself. Try to mark any of the given options that you think is the most suitable answer. While doing this, I would also like you to identify in one of these questions, if you could quickly look, there were 2 options that were a repetition. Were you able to identify that? If you weren't, by the way, in question number 3, look at options B and option D. You might think of them as a typo error, or it was just to check whether you are able to identify while reading that this is a repetition. Should we go to the answers of these questions now? Okay, here we have the answers. Question number 1 was, what does this passage mainly discuss? Well, the passage mainly discusses precipitation or rainfall, which includes all the snowfall and rain. Of course, the passage was not about New York State only. It was not about snowfall only. It was not also about computation of precipitation only. Question number 2 was, which of the following is another word that is often used in place of rainfall? 4 options were given. Option C, precipitation, was the correct option. As far as question number 3 is concerned, the question was, the term precipitation includes dash, and option C, rain, snow and hail. This was correct. For question number 4, what is the average annual rainfall in inches in the United States? The correct answer was 36 inches. As far as number 5 question is concerned, it said, if a state has 40 inches of snow in a year, by how much does this increase the annual precipitation? The 4 options were given to you here, and option B, that is by 4 inches, was correct. Which factors affect the amount of precipitation? This was the last question on the slide, and the correct option for answering this question was A, that is altitude, location and proximity to the sea. Check your scores for this activity, how well you could perform on the activity. I would also like to ask one more question. Did you go back to the comprehension passage to find the answers of these questions, or you used your memory to recall what you had read? If you went back to the paragraph, to the passage, where did you try to locate what? This is a question that you need to ask yourself. So I think you had some practice of passage comprehension, and you were given an exposure to what kind of possibilities of questions for such passages is possible. With this, we move on to part 2 of this practice, that is extract comprehension. In this case, I have taken a sentence here as an extract, and we'll see what we can do with its comprehension. Let us first see what the extract itself is. I guess you would have read the extract, the small sentence that is given in the small box. If you want to use it for listening purposes, I would read it out for you. Starting in 1955, all workers had to wear steel helmets if they were employed in the construction industry. Now, which of the following can be the statement properly inferred from the above? We have 5 options here. This is some practice in how you can infer meaning while comprehending some text. Option 1 is, no workers had to wear steel helmets before 1955, but all workers had to wear them after 1955. Option B was, construction industry workers were the first to be required to wear steel helmets. Option C says, construction industry workers had to wear steel helmets prior to 1955. Option D says, some workers may have worn steel helmets before 1955, but all construction workers were required to wear them beginning in 1955. And option E says, workers may have worn some type of helmet before 1955, but later all had to wear steel type helmets. Now, which option do you think is the correct inference from the sentence? If you have marked your answer, let us see what is the possibility of correct answer. Well, I have marked the last one, that is E option, as the most suitable inference from the sentence. Let us see why. Look at the first option, option A. No workers had to wear steel helmets before 1955, but all workers had to wear them after 1955. Well, this option says that before 1955, the workers were not wearing any helmets, and it was only from 1955 that they started wearing. If you look at the sentence, starting in 1955, all workers had to wear steel helmets if they were employed. What the author is talking about is the compulsion, whether you used to wear it before or not, but from 1955 onwards, as a worker, you have to wear. This is what he is talking about. Look at option B. Construction industry workers were the first to be required to wear steel helmets. Well, the sentence in itself does not convey anything implicit where any reference to this construction industry as the first to make this compulsion is given, so it is rejected. Option C. Construction industry workers had to wear steel helmets prior to 1955. अब ये तो बात ही बिल्कुल opposite होगी ना उस बात से that is said in the sentence, so it is also rejected. The tough competition is between D and E options. Option D says some workers may have worn steel helmets before 1955, but all construction workers were required to wear them beginning in 1955. Well, if you look at the sentence, it only tells that from 1955 onwards they were asked to wear steel helmets. Before that, how many of them wore it or did not wear it? How many of them wore a steel helmet or some other kind of helmet? Nothing is told in the sentence. So this part, some workers may have worn steel helmets, makes this option rejected. Option E is workers may have worn some type of helmets before 1955, but later all had to wear steel type helmets. This is the most suitable option because the sentence specifies all workers had to wear steel helmets if they were to be employed, not any other type of helmets were approved of. So based on this argument, we selected the fifth option, option E, as the correct option. Here is another small extract. This time this extract is neither a sentence nor a full passage, rather it is a part of that. Look at the extract. You can read it yourself. For a listening comprehension, I would read it out. By far the chief export in the 15th century was textiles. Among these, woolens predominated, linens were far less important, and silks played an insignificant part. Outside this group, the only important item in the first half of the century was corn, though the exports of fish, lead and tin were by no means negligible. And we go to the questions. Now think about this. Given the information on the previous slide, look at the following statements. Which of these best tells the information given in the paragraph? Option A, corn was nearly as important an export as linen. Option B, corn, though not as important as an export as textiles, was still an important component of the export trade. Option C, silk was a valuable export in the 15th century. Option D, fishing was a bigger industry than wool production in the 15th century. And option E, non-textile items were one of the chief elements in the list of products exported in the 15th century. Well, you can check here your answer with the correct answer that is given here. The correct answer in this case is corn, though not as important in export as textiles, was still an important component of the export trade. Well, this time for this activity, I would not do the logical argument part to support what I have chosen as the correct answer. Rather, I would like you to think for a while logically, why did you choose your option, and if it was incorrect, why the option that I have given as correct is to be chosen. Try to develop an argument through self-argument. Well, this is B part of that, where I'm just giving some sentences, and in each case of the sentence you have to see which option best replaces the original text. Number 1. Low blood sugar is no more a disorder of unknown origin. I repeat, low blood sugar is no more a disorder of unknown origin. You are given 4 options. Option 1 states, low blood sugar is a disorder. Its causes are not known. Option B, low blood sugar is a disorder. Its causes are no more hidden. Option C, low blood sugar is a disorder that has its own causes. And option D, low blood sugar is a disorder and its causes are known. Out of these 4 options, mark your option as the best substitute or replacement for the original sentence. Look at the correct answer. The sentence was, low blood sugar is no more a disorder of unknown origin. It is no more unknown. Its causes are no more unknown. That is why we have chosen the second option. The other 3 options are nullified, because the first is a contradiction to the original sentence, the third is different information from the original sentence, and actually the tough competition was between the second and the fourth option, that is B and D option. However, D option was rejected on the basis because it said low blood pressure is a disorder and its causes are known. The information that is provided is correct. However, the original sentence provided some more information than that. And what is that? The original sentence said that low blood sugar is a disorder and its causes are known now. That is why the option B was chosen as the correct option. Look at this example. Try to do this. This habit makes you susceptible to disease. 4 options are given. Option A, only because of this habit you will catch the disease. Option B, you are likely to catch disease because of this habit. Option C, you will catch the disease because of the habit. And option D, you can save yourself if you give up this habit. Which one do you think is correct? Okay, if you have identified the correct answer for yourself, let us move on to the next slide. Okay, in this case, only because of this habit you will catch the disease is marked as a correct option. Please compare it to the sentence itself. This habit makes you susceptible to disease. And the option that I have marked is, only because of this habit you will catch the disease. Do you agree to this answer? Come on, this is not a correct answer. So, actually the point that I raised somewhere during the session, that you need to establish a habit of questioning what is said, questioning what is written. So this habit makes you susceptible to disease. When you read this sentence, if you question yourself, what does it mean? What does each word mean? In that case, you would not agree with me when I say that option A is correct, where only because of this habit is used. Actually, the correct answer was, you are likely to catch disease because of this habit, which means you have the chances of catching this disease because of this habit. What I wanted to prove, dear students, at this point is that as a reader, you need to learn to challenge. You need to learn to challenge what comes across you as a writing material. With this, I move on to the next point, that is Iqbal's poetry will always be admired. Now in this sentence, whatsoever is said, which of the following four replaces that best? Option A, Iqbal's poetry will always be read. Option B, Iqbal's poetry will always be recited. C, Iqbal's poetry will always be venerated. And option D, Iqbal's poetry will be repeated. And mark your option before you move on to the next page. Anyhow, you can see the correct option here. Iqbal's poetry will always be venerated. It will always be respected. Okay, dear students, since reading comprehension is more about reading and more about doing activities, that is why in today's session I have incorporated a lot of activities and a lot of exercises that would help you improve your reading, and that would help you improve your reading comprehension by using different strategies. Dear students, from here onwards on this slideshow you would find some reading passages followed by some activities. I am not going to read each one of these for you. I do not want these to be made listening comprehension activities anyways. I want you to read them independently and to try to solve the activities. I would just take you through the slides and then I would close the session. After that you can sit and you can go through all these activities starting from this slide, that is slide 34. What I would ask you to try is to read this passage that is given here as passage 1. The passage is about the effect of science on the views regarding man's place in the universe. And then you can see some questions are given. You are supposed to mark the answers for that. Here you would again see some of these that are given and you are supposed to mark these. Before I move forward, I would like to sum up the important points related to the reading strategies, especially reading comprehension strategies. The skills and strategies that good readers use for reading comprehension and for efficient reading comprehension include rapid and accurate word reading. A very slow speed reduces comprehension as well. Number 2, setting goals for reading, which means focused on why you are reading, what is the purpose of reading. Number 3, noting the structure and organization of text. It helps in comprehension. Number 4, monitoring their understanding while reading. ये जो मैंने आपसे कहा था ना कि read something and then question yourself. What does it mean? What does it imply? ये वही है. You need to monitor yourself, check yourself for that. Creating mental notes and summaries. On your slate of mind, on your screen of mind, you take mental notes or summaries or main points of something when you are reading it. वो जो मैंने आपसे कहा था ना, the tip of taking notes. If you are not taking them on a piece of paper, well, you can take notes in your head for that as well. Keeping these instructions in mind, I have a comparatively longer extract for you to read. Read this extract and answer the questions that are given. Here are the questions. Each question has A, B, C and D options. I would like you to tick those options. Then for your clarity, what I have done is I have given the answer, the correct answer, and then the detail of, you see, the whole detail. This is given of the logical argument why option B is correct and the other options are to be rejected. This is how it continues. Question 2 with 4 options. Then the correct option is given. A logical development of ideas is given. Why option D is correct in comparison and contrast to the other options. Same goes with question 3 and question 4. And I have given, you see, the correct option and I have given you the details of that. Question number 5 and question number 6 are given. Their options are here. You can tick out of these and you can look here as well. Question number 9, I have provided, with the exception of a few, I have provided the details of the logical development of the argument for most of these. With this, my dear students, you would come to this slide. Well, as I've already said, reading comprehension is more about practice. What I have done is, this is a hyperlink. If you click on this, you would go to this. Here I have given a small story for you. This story is about, you see, the storm. So here I am introducing the reading comprehension of a short story. I am scrolling it down. You can read this whole story that is almost of 1.5 pages. Once you are done with this story, you can see questions here. Look at the questions. As used in paragraph C, which is the best definition for onomatopoeia? You are given options. You have to choose the right option out of these. Then you are given the next question. The options are there. Questions are here, answers are given, where you have to make your choices. And here I have provided again the answers for each of these questions. The correct answer, the correct option for question 1 is B. I have given a complete development of what I would say the argument why this particular option is correct and the other options are incorrect. So you can just keep on scrolling down and you would find all the details of these answers. You can practice it for yourself. When you close that window, you come back to this slide. You can move on to the next slide. Here I have given another high difficulty level paragraph for reading comprehension practice. If you click on this link, again a PDF file would open for you. You can read this passage. The passage is a comparatively long one, and once you would give it a reading, you would also realize it is a bit more difficult. Maybe you would not be able to understand it in one go. Those who do not understand it in one go, they can read it twice. And for those who find it difficult even after reading twice, after reading it for 2 times, you can go to the questions, read the questions, and then go back to the extract. Read all this. And once you are done, you see, you can look at the questions here that are given. You can read these questions, you can mark the options for them, and to facilitate you, here the answers and the explanations are provided. Again, for example, for question number 1, option C is the correct option. I have given the whole justification here, provided it here, that tells why option C is the correct option, the other options are not suitable. In the same way, you would find details for each of these. The justifications are provided in the whole activity. Once you're done with this, you can close this and you go back to the slideshow. I'm moving towards the closing of today's session. To close the session, what else to say? I would say a very good tip for students is read early in the day. This will allow you to concentrate and retain more information than studying later at night when you may be tired. When tired, your concentration and comprehension will decrease. The second quick tip I would give is try to read for 35 to 40 minutes at a time and then take a short break. If you have this as your reading goal, it can serve as a motivator in trying to really focus on the material at hand. Try to make these bursts quality reading time. The general attention time of a human being is not more than 20 to 25 minutes in a stretch. So the maximum you can read in one go is 35 to 40 minutes. After that, you need to have a break of a few minutes so that with more energy and with more concentration, you can do some more reading and can comprehend that better. And if possible, find a quiet location for yourself. There shouldn't be too many distractions, as they are not very conducive for quality reading. Especially when it comes to academic reading, I think this is a very good tip. Keep on checking and monitoring your comprehension by asking yourself every once in a while, what have I learned so far? If you do not have clear-cut answer to this question, reread that material, or at least that particular part of the material about which you have doubts. Try skimming the chapter first. Take a look at the title page, preface, subtitles, the introduction, and the chapter summary before reading the entire chapter, if all these things are available. What I mean is, use skimming for preview. Here I have given some references. These are actually all the references of the books, the sites, the materials that I have actually used for developing today's session, and actually the previous session as well. So in collective, I have given all these references here. If you can lay hand to any of these books, you can use them for your benefit. Especially in case of websites, you can explore them more for your benefit. You can have more activities and exercises that are available on different websites, and you can have more practice in reading comprehension. I hope today's lesson has given you good enough practice on reading comprehension skills, and it has added to your clarity on what are good reading comprehension strategies and how they can be used by students in their academic reading. With this, I close today's session. Thank you very much.